If the problem keeps happening over and over again, maybe it's not your people. Maybe it's your process. Welcome to the 7-Figure Blueprint, where we share real-life stories of contractors just like you and dive deep into the steps they took to grow their business so you can too. My name is Garrett Bake. I've worked with hundreds of contractors, helping them scale their business to 7 figures and beyond. I love watching football, mostly college football, but I also watch some NFL football, right? But I love football and I love watching elite athletes excel. But one of the funniest things for me is watching bloopers, right? And when you watch bloopers, what is it? It's people screwing up. It's people not doing the thing that needs to be done. And there's nothing funnier than watching two offensive linemen block one person or block no person, and then the person they're supposed to be blocking have a free run to the quarterback, right? And you're like, well, what happened? I mean, it was obvious that there's one guy in front of them, so they should be blocking that person, except their scheme was different, right? So the play that was called was supposed to cover that guy, but for some reason, something screwed up, right? Now, when you see them on the sidelines, what do? You see people pointing fingers, you see people throwing tablets, you see people tossing their helmets, getting angry. But ultimately, what's the issue, right? The issue is we want to blame the person, but what we should be blaming is the system. And it's no different when it comes to your contracting business. You get to this level, right? 7 figures, and you're like, woohoo, I made it. Except for all the problems that you had before are just bigger, right? I can't tell you how many times I've talked to a contractor that says, my people aren't the right people. And I'm like, okay, how do we know this? Well, they're not doing what they need to be doing. And I'm like, okay, well, who decides what they should be doing? And they're like, well, they should know what they should be doing. And I'm like, okay, so what should they be doing? And they just stare at me blankly. In fact, I was working with a plumbing contractor out of California, doing over $15 million a year. And he hired an office manager, clear roles and responsibilities, right? Hired this office manager, is paying him over 6 figures. Like everything was good to go. 2 weeks in, he calls me and he's like, I think I'm going to fire the office manager. And I was like, well, why are you going to fire the office manager? And he's like, she's not doing her job. I'm like, okay, well, what is she supposed to be doing? He's like, well, I gave her a list. I'm like, oh, okay. Did you train her? Well, no, she should know what to do. And I said, well, what do you think would happen if you sat down with her and you walk through everything that you're assuming that she should know how to do, that you really want her to do, and more importantly, show her how you want her to do it? And he's like, well, I don't know. So I said, well, let's try that. 2 weeks later, he calls me. He's like, she's doing awesome. I love her. She's amazing. And I was like, well, what changed, right? And the thing that changed was he got clear on showing her what needed to be done and how it needed to be done. Most contractors, most business owners, but most contractors, when there's an issue, they want to point to the person first and say, this is a person problem. Except that's not really what it is. I teach a class for the Home Builders Association, and inside of this, we're talking about building high-performing teams. And one of the slides that I have talks about this exact concept, right? The first thing that you have to look at when you're having an issue or a problem is not the person. It's the process, right? Because if you don't have a process, as much as you want to blame the person, is it really their fault? Well, the answer is no. The answer is it's your fault. It's your fault because you didn't set up a process or a system for them to follow. And so what are they going to do? Well, I don't know, whatever they think is best. They could be having a good day or a bad day. I don't know, pick one, right? They could be experienced. They could be brand spanking new. I don't know, right? So ultimately, are they going to make mistakes? Yes, but if you don't have a process, you don't have anything to hold them accountable to. So think about this. How many times have you really doubled down on hiring, right? And you're like, man, I need to spend more time vetting these employees. And so you do, right? Except for the results don't change. Because it doesn't matter how much effort you put into your hiring process, okay? There's nothing that can overcome missing standards, unclear roles, or missing handoffs. Think about this. If your crew, your guys are coming up to you and saying, hey, boss, what's next? What do you want me to do next, right? What do you think that is? Do you think it's because they're idiots? Don't answer that. Do you think it's because they're not smart? Or do you think it's because they don't know what to do next because nothing's defined? What about rework and punch lists, right? You keep having to go back and do stuff. Why do you think that is? Is that because they don't know how to do the work? Or is it because they don't know how to spot mistakes because there's no checklist, right? What about jobs starting before the materials are there? And all of a sudden your guys show up and there's nothing to do because there's no material there. What about your meetings that you have that don't talk about anything other than let's just talk about meeting, right? And then you wonder why your team isn't performing at a certain standard. Again, as much as we want to blame our people, it has nothing to do with our people. You can't add people and not add process, right? All your new hires are going to do is copy the chaos that they see happening around them. Accountability, right? Instead of you going back to a process, you're going back to a person. And so now accountability feels personal, right? You didn't do a good job versus you didn't follow the process. You're not attacking the person, you're attacking the process. So what is structure, right? What are systems? Number one and most important, right? It is a clear lane. It's a clear path. It's a clear game plan. Purpose, outcomes, standards, steps, authority, so on and so forth, right? If you want your people to do a better job, you have to clearly define what that looks like. If you can't define it, you can't expect them to do it the way that you want it done. You can't have things living in your head anymore. The next thing you need to have is visible standards, right? Like if nobody knows where to go to understand how to do the thing or to make sure that they're following the thing, the process, then how do you expect them to follow the process? I am such a huge fan of checklists. And whether it's a trade-specific checklist or a job-specific checklist or both, I'm a huge fan of it because it's something visual that somebody can follow. Listen, I can't remember what I had for dinner last night. And it's really difficult for me to follow things that don't have steps involved that I can refer back to. How do you want something to be done the same every single time? Write it down. Write it down. Create a checklist out of it. Okay? Now, but that kind of leads us to the next step, which is how do we replace micromanaging with expectations, right? We want people to perform at a higher level. It's not going to be by micromanaging, okay? It's going to be showing them what they're accountable to, giving them the tools and the process and the understanding to get to that level, and then holding them accountable to that. I don't want anybody to do their best. I want somebody to do the job that they're being paid to do, whether that's a sub or it's an employee, and you should too. If you're not keeping track of the data, okay, it's really hard to know if someone's performing at the level that you want to. So instead of coaching behavior using feelings, hey, John, I really feel like you're doing a bad job. Oh, really? Why? You can say, hey, John, currently only 50% of our jobs are finished on time and on budget. Let's talk about that. Again, the data, the numbers. So you're coaching behavior using numbers and not feelings. Here's another couple things, okay? If two people own something, two or more people, then no one really owns it, right? If you have multiple people that are in charge of onboarding, or multiple people that are in charge of billing, or multiple people that are in charge of ordering materials, ultimately what you're going to have is chaos and problems because there's no one person that owns it, right? If work stops when you leave a job site, that means that nobody on the job site currently has the authority or has been given the responsibility to make decisions. And so they wait for you to come back or they wait for you to call. Okay? What about when there's a massive punch list at the end? All a massive punch list tells me is that the expectations were vague, is that there's no checklist or no process to follow. There's always going to be punch list items. It's part of the game. But the cleaner we are on our checklists and our process, the smaller those become. So what are some fixes that you can do, right? How do we turn average players into a reliable team? It's hard to get an average person to be an all-star. Full transparency. But you can get an average person, like a C level player, to be a B level player. And how do we do that? Okay, the first thing is clear roles and responsibilities. Not you're in the role of project manager, therefore you should know how to manage projects. No, this is ABC company. This is how we do things. These are the 5 things that you're responsible for as a project manager. Here's how we expect you to do them. Okay, now we're going to train you on how to do them. Okay, now I'm going to hold you accountable. Here's your scorecard. Big difference, right? And that's what you want. The next thing, create a definition of done, right? Whatever the job is, whatever the task is, how do they know that it's done? They should be able to follow a checklist, okay? Meetings. The purpose of meetings is not to take up your time. The purpose of meetings is, what are we doing? How are we doing it? Okay, what help do you need to make sure that that gets done? Morning huddles, morning meetings, schedules of days. I love having these types of meetings. Why? Because it allows me to put my team in a position to succeed. They know what's expected of them that day. They know how they're expected to do it. And I've answered any questions as far as any help that they need to get there. So now holding them accountable is not a, did you do the thing? Well, I didn't know how to do the thing. It's a, did you do the thing? Yes, I did, or no, I didn't. Great, because we gave you everything that you need to make sure that it happens. Okay? Structure. Structure is your friend, okay? If you want your people to raise their standard, create a structure that allows them to do it. If you're okay with people being average or below average players, keep running a business without any structure. If you want to know how to build structure inside of your business and you're doing over 7 figures, go to buildpro.io. We'd love to have a conversation with you and show you how to implement structure inside of your business. All right, you know what time it is. It's time to get after it. 3, 2, 1, off you go. Thanks for listening to the show. If you're a contractor doing at least $500K in revenue and still stuck wearing every hat, if your team exists but your systems don't, if cash shows up but clarity doesn't, and you don't know what to do next, go to buildprosystem.com and book your free business breakdown. We'll show you why you're stuck and, more importantly, how you can break free. So go to buildprosystem.com and schedule your free business breakdown today.